Hi everyone, welcome to the Tableau Developer User Group, the last of 2019. I hope you are ready. Just a quick notice. I'm Geraldine, everyone is calling me Gigi, and I'm a developer advocate and your host for today's presentation. Some quick logistics. If you have any questions during the session, please use the Q&A box, and we will take some questions at the end of the WebEx. So use the Q&A box to ask any questions that you might have during the session. We will take them at the end of the session. The agenda for today: what is embedded analytics? Why should you do it? Then we have two awesome customer stories. The first one, an embedded Tableau solution for K-12 data consumer by Bill from CustomTech. Then we have creating an embedded application powered by Tableau with Ross and Justin from iVantage Health. Really excited to have you on board with us for this Tableau Developer User Group. So, what is embedded analytics? All right. Well, it's defined as data and analytics that is integrated in your application or web portal. The idea is to deliver Tableau analytics to the end users wherever they are, wherever it is. A web page, another application or services, or a mobile app. It provides customer and partner with a powerful self-service analytics solution that is easy to customize, integrate, and deploy. But why do embedded analytics? First of all, for customer and end users, they are already in a familiar environment, that is your application, and it's for them easy and quick to access to the data. It adds value to your applications. Users can be self-service and use self-service analytics to quick and easy access to the data. They can answer questions on that side and increase the engagement from your customers. They can access and interact with the data, helping answer their own questions. For the business, it generates more revenue, more and new revenues. Better understand of the customers and optimize the product. You might want to monetize your data and generate new revenue for your organization. Increase the engagement of the user already. We already say it from the customer side. And it's a better understanding of your customer, what they want. You optimize your product to answer their own questions and create more memorable experience and make your product stand out from the other ones. So now that you know what is embedded analytics and why you should do embedded analytics in your organization, the first presentation is going to be by Bill, an embedded Tableau solution for K-12 data consumer. So Bill, the scene is all yours.
All right, thank you, Gigi. Let me share my screen. And Justin and Ross, I'm sure you will agree that given that this is the last presentation of the year, Gigi saved the best for last. Let's hope that you all agree. All right, so I'm going to go through a few slides, and then I'm going to jump in and show you the product itself, and then dive into the back end and show you how we ended up implementing what you see. Gigi, can you see my screen all right?
Yes, we can see the presenter mode of your slides.
Good. Okay. So
I think you need to duplicate your screen because we can see your notes.
You see, oh wait, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Hold on, I got it. One. Sorry, my bad. I thought I grabbed the screen one. Share my screen. Oh, it came up as screen 3 this time. Yeah, all right. Now you see the presentation, right?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So who are we? We are an exclusive channel partner of Infinite Campus. Infinite Campus is one of the largest student information systems in the country. Student information system is the software that runs your school district. When I say school district, I'm referring to basically your public, it's K to 12, kindergarten to 12th grade type of schools. We are also a Tableau reseller partner. We have been so since 2009. I'm actually, I think, one of the oldest reseller partners that Tableau has. Again, our whole reason for doing this was to make the data easier to access for our end users. So I'm going to jump out just for a second to give you a quick peek at what Infinite Campus looks like so that you can, and every time I jump out, I lose my sharing. Sorry about that. This way you can understand what we're talking about in the integration. This is what the interface for Infinite Campus looks like. The important thing to note is you have access to any of your schools and or calendars, which is like a school in a school year. You're a teacher, you have access to what sections you teach. It knows who you are, obviously, when you're logged in. And these are all contextual cues that we use in our integration, because in the product, if I go to pull up a student, if I only have rights to the middle school, I won't see the other calendars. I'm in as an admin, so I have everything. And I'll only be able to search that school. And what we do is we piggyback on top of the tool and data rights of Infinite Campus to make sure that the dashboards also only show data from those areas where the user has been granted rights explicitly. Because data security is obviously very important. And there you go, one more time. You know what, I'm just gonna stay in, let me just switch it again. Every time I go in and out of presentation mode, it changes my screen, but that's all right. This is the last time I'll be doing it, so we'll be good. There we go. I got my presentation again. But I wanted you to see that, so as we go through, talk about why in the student information system, again, it's the familiarity of the interface. All of the end users know and use that every day, and they're comfortable with it. Why Tableau? Obviously, the interactive dashboards, the flexibility of the platform, all of the different APIs, also the flexibility of data access. We don't always access data just from Infinite Campus. They may be pulling data from external assessment systems and things like that, but it all integrates, as you all know. Tableau will work across multiple data sources seamlessly. When I look at this SIS to Tableau interactivity, we're passing information like who the user is, what calendar is selected, what school, what section. Ad hoc results are the general purpose querying utility that the student information system has. We want to pass that data in to affect the rendering of our dashboards. And then the other direction, we have marks listeners, so that when marks are selected on a viz, we can pass that data back out to the student information system and store it as one of these ad hoc queries. We can use it to jump to other parts of the SIS when we've got a single student selected. And we also keep our own version of dashboard logging on the student information system side to be able to quickly and easily show the users and administrators really what dashboards have been seen. How do we go about doing this? I basically just used all of the documentation provided by Tableau. This URL is the JavaScript API reference documentation. I would jump out, but I know it's going to, I'll show it to you after these slides. Same thing for the REST API. They provided some good examples. We're on a Tomcat server, so we're doing everything in Java in a combination of server-side and client-side code there. And we also wrote a web data connector, which allows for grabbing those ad hoc query results and using them as a data source. And again, that was just done using the Tableau documentation available on GitHub. So what are we doing? The JavaScript API, we're using that for front-end control, filter and parameter manipulation. We have the marks listeners implemented in the JavaScript API. We take actions. We also do tab manipulations. We actually don't show, if you have a multi-tab workbook in Tableau, we actually don't show the actual Tableau tabs. We convert them to Infinite Campus tabs because that provides us more flexibility in the interface. But we also use trusted authentication That's a combination really of server-side and client-side code. REST API we use for account management. I'm not going to go into the details, but trusted authentication requires that you have a valid user account on the Tableau server, and we don't want our clients spending a lot of time managing parallel security systems. And so, as I'd mentioned, we use mostly the Infinite Campus tool rights, and so we automatically create user accounts on the Tableau side based upon accounts and rights on the Infinite Campus side of things. We provide a whole library of dashboards, and we've built an automated library installer. It installs 86 something dashboards. That's obviously all REST API stuff, but we also do some other things. Dashboard versioning is part of that as well, so that when we do incremental updates, our installer knows to leave some dashboards alone and update the ones that have been changed based upon their version numbers. And as I mentioned there, just a little background. Jump to the bottom. It's a lot of work. I've been working on this for about 8 years, 9 years now. I started just kind of playing around with it back when Tableau first released the JavaScript API. And it was pretty cool. And we were working, I think, on Tableau version 5 back then. But then, as you can see, over time, we added more and more features to the implementation. 1.0, it basically took us, 5.5 years to get to what I considered the first official version. We actually started selling the product right around here. And then this is where we added logging, the REST API account management. And then we worked on that for a while. We built a web data connector. And then this past year, we kind of did a pause and said, you know what? It's been a nice development thing. It's time to turn out a real polished version. We hired a consultant, and we did a complete rewrite of the front end look of the interface and things like that. And now we're on to version 2 and more. So now I'm going to jump in and give you a quick demo of what it looks like. And then I'll jump into the back end and show you some snippets of the code that we use to get there. So here's the Infinite Campus interface. What we do is we provide everyone with a customizable homepage called My Data Dashboards. And this data for the functionality, the choice of dashboards is stored all on the Infinite Campus database side of things. And we have this concept, what we call minis, which allows an end user to build their own customized dashboard for their homepage. If you wanted to change a mini, you can come in here and it gives you a choice of all of the different minis to which you have tool rights. And this is actually pulling from tool rights in the product. And so depending on who you are, you will only see what you've been given rights to via Infinite Campus. And if I grab this, you'll see it'll update it and it'll pull up my Box Tops dashboard. I hit save, and now that's always on my homepage. So every person can keep adding. You also have access to all of the dashboards to which have been granted rights in this drop-down menu here. So if I go in and I show a basic student demographics dashboard, now you'll notice I am in Darren Middle School, the 1920 calendar. It comes up with a blank dashboard because whenever you're counting students, you need to know as of what date. And so when I select today, which is easy enough to do, it comes up and you can see that it populates for Darren Middle School today, total number of students. But because this is aware of the context here, if I change the calendar, I have rights to all schools. And when I change it, it says, oh, I need to update the dashboard now. It re-renders. I grab today, and now I can see rights across, I can see counts across all schools. As I've mentioned, we have the ability to interact with the ad hoc querying facility, which is what you use to kind of run queries and store selected subsets of kids. So I'm looking at all students. I have the ability with this overlay ad hoc button, and these are optional parameters that you can add to any of your visits. One of the things that we stress is while we're giving them all these dashboards, we're really giving them a framework to build their own and add it into the system. And I'll show you how they can do that. But now they can come in and say, well, I only want to look at the students returned by my query that returns free or reduced students. So what happens here is I run this, in the background, the student information system is running the query, returns the students, and now it has automatically applied the filter. So you can see I'm now down to 71 students. this is the distribution across my district of free and reduced students by school, by grade. And then these are just interactive dashboards. When I select sixth grade, you can see what school it's in. I can see my sixth grade Asian free and reduced population. So you can see the power of that pretty quickly. If I want to remove it, I just remove the filter and it resets it. So this is all JavaScript API type of code. I always have access to all of my dashboards. Again, this is just JavaScript code. So I'll go to our early warning system. And actually, let me go to the high school. And now this will re-render. I'll go to our early warning system, which is kind of, showing at-risk students based upon attendance, behavior, and posted grades. And so it shows a list of students listed by their overall risks. You can see the individual students. I also have that overlay ad hoc ability. The reason I'm showing you here is we have a March listener, and I've got several different dashboard actions. So if I select an individual student, you'll notice that obviously it updates the right-hand side so I can see greater detail on why that student is number 4 in the list of at-risk. But you'll also notice the Marks listener, notice that I selected a mark, so maybe I want to save that as an ad hoc query. And it also noticed that I selected a single mark, which means I am focusing on a single student, and I may want to jump to another part of the product. So this will send me back into Infinite Campus to look at specific details on the student. And this is, again, an extensible list. So if I were to select multiple students, you'll see that the jump to drop down went away because it sees the Marks listener said, no, you got more than one. But if you still want to save those as an ad hoc query, you can. I'm going to go back and grab just one student to show you other ways that we can integrate in the product. So if I have this student selected and I want to jump to a custom tab that has an assessments dashboard that I've built, I go here and now you can see, here's that same student, Jared Price, and this is his assessments. I can see all kinds of other data on him. This is the regular tab set from Infinite Campus, but it's extensible and we're able to add our own custom tabs. So in this case, you can see this assessments Tableau, and if I want to see some data on his assessments, I can come in and say, well, let me see how he did within the cohort that took it that year, 10, 11, or no, I want to see how he did compared to all years. And when I do that, I can see his year and prior years and the distribution across all years. So you can see we've got the ability to make our dashboards automatically filter by an individual student, by a school, by the entire district, things like that. We have the ability to put this stuff out on our portal. I'll show you that in a second. We also have the ability to use the REST API. I told you this is an extensible system, and what we've built is what we call a homepage link manager, and this utilizes the REST API. So what's going to happen when I click this, I can add links here, but when I go to new tool, you'll see that I get a spinner saying loading projects. What's happening is I've got an AJAX call running in the background that is using the REST API to load all of the content from my Tableau server. So this way, I can tell the Infinite Campus system everything it needs to know about how to find the new link that I have just published and put in my system. So there it is, it's finished. Why did it take so long? Because you can see I have a lot of projects on my Tableau server. If I come into the, default, you can see all the workbooks that I have in there. I've got this bus routes. When I pull up my bus routes workbook, you can see all of the views available. There's only one. When I pull that up, it gives me a preview of it, and then I can set any of the API features. And these are just parameters passed to the URL sent to the Infinite Campus Tomcat server. When I save it, this automatically gets added to wherever I want in that home page menu. And then finally, I got to check myself on time here. All right, I got a couple of minutes. We can put it on the portal. I'm not going to show you that just because, I have one. Here. Actually, leave that. I should have gone parent. I'll be a parent so you can see about a parent. I log into the portal. When I come in, Infinite Campus allows extensibility. It's basically publishing one of those custom tabs that I showed you under the More section. What did I do? I grabbed the wrong person. I'll go to James Abate then, because he also has a dashboard. Here he is, James. When he goes, he can see any of the custom content. If he wants to see his ELA math results, the dashboard comes up right away with all of his data. If I'm a parent, I get a drop down here with a selector of all the students I have rights to. And when I pull up my student, it changes the dashboard. Also, we're implementing JavaScript call to the save PDF function because parents want to print this stuff and put it on their fridge. All right, let's jump in and look at the code. We're running on a, so this is example code of what renders that page. I think I have about 3-4 minutes, right, Gigi?
Yes.
Okay. So we're running a combination of server-side and client-side code. It's a JSP, Tomcat server. So you've got embedded Java. We include, obviously, a bunch of Java libraries. Anywhere where you see this, we're now on server-side Java code. The first thing we do is we pass a parameter to the URL called viz. That's that link manager. It actually creates a URL that passes, and it's the URL of the viz on your Tableau server. We pass a whole lot of other things, depending on what kind of filtering, whether they're filtering by the section, by the calendar, the end here. So up front, we process all of the parameters that could have been passed in. Then we drop down here. We do our trusted authentication. That is done through a compiled Java class. Actually, we retrieve an alignment setting from the database it's stored. And then trusted authentication is right here, use TA. We have a class called Tableau Ticket Retriever. We instantiate the class. We make a call. We pass it the URL of the viz that was passed in. We get a ticket. And then we build the ultimate URL called Tableau View1. And this is pulling right from the example code that Tableau provides. That's the beauty of it. And then any parameters. And then we basically finish it up. We close out the database. And here we are now. We're done with the head-to-end server-side code. Now we're into the client-side JavaScript. We load a couple of functions. I'm going to try not to make it too busy. I'm going to skip over this. We do some error checking. If we didn't get a ticket, we spit out an error message. We didn't get a ticket. Either the user isn't licensed or you didn't give us something else. We also license our product. So we spit back an error message saying you're trying to use it, but your product isn't licensed. Or this piece of code doesn't work on the portal. And if they're on the portal and trying to view, we say, nope, there's another piece of code that you want to use. Then we come in, we set up the width and the height of the viz that we're going to view. Some form stuff for Infinite Campus. Processing some of the parameters passed in, and then here's the meat of it. Div, Tableau, viz1. You do some setting of information on width, height, background, things like that. And then here, this is the JavaScript. We have it all embedded right in the code instead of an included JavaScript files. This forces the load on page load here. Placeholder div, you can see, we're pulling in that element. Here's where we pass a lot of variables from the server side to the client side with these JSP includes here. And then options, width of the viz, height of the viz. This is again pulled right from the instruction, the demo stuff that Tableau provides. And an initial function call after it's first rendered. And then we basically append a bunch of parameters. We use parameters to set some filter values before rendering the first time. On first interactive renders the viz initially. You don't have any control over it unless you pass it variables in the URL. That's what we're doing here with the pen param. And finally, this here. That's all it takes to drop the viz into your page. And then the rest is just JavaScript code to control it. Here's the do initial setup. We hide the spitter, and then we decide, are we looking at a story, a dashboard, or a set of worksheets? We do some marks, some checking, and then we turn on the marks listener. We set some global variables that go with that, and then we set all the appropriate filters, and we do one last check to make sure our viz has been sized properly for the frame it's in. Simple as that. On the Java side, we simply I use Eclipse for development. We've got a library of calls. We've got a whole bunch of different things that we've written in our data viz library. You can see our Tableau Ticket Retriever class right here that manages that. And then we pulled right from the example code the Tableau REST API utils. And what it does is it creates an endpoint for each of the REST API utility, REST API calls, and we're able to call those on the fly. The bindings basically compiles the schema document into compiled classes for each of the elements in that schema. And then you can see down here, we assume that we're starting on API version 2.8, but then one of the first things we do is we make a call to server info to find out what version the server is, and then we update that to run the actual version of the REST API that the server is on. That's it. Gigi, taking them through everything. And I guess we'll wait for Q&A at the end.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your presentation. So if you have any questions for Bill, use the Q&A box on the bottom right of WebEx to ask your questions. Now, let's talk about creating an embedded application powered by Tableau with Ross and Justin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna jump in here. And can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
All right, yep. So I'm the Director of Business Intelligence here at iVantage Health, and Justin is our Director of Application Development here with me as well. Here's just a quick snippets about us. I've been in healthcare technology for about 10 plus years, of all things Tableau and Python and advanced analytics. And Justin, if you want to give your brief intro.
Sure. Also been building software for roughly 10 years. I'm much less well-versed on the Tableau side of things than Ross is, but I bring more my share of the expertise to the JavaScript and APIs and backends. So that's what I'll leave it at there until I pick it back up later.
Cool. So here's our quick, colorful agenda. So first, who are we? We are part of the Chartist Group, which is one of the largest pure healthcare consulting companies in the country. Here's just sort of a snippet of our client base. So we cover certainly geographically and type-wise a lot of different healthcare customers across the country, which drives a lot of different use cases for us. So what we were trying to do, we really wanted to set out to create an application so that these healthcare organizations could better understand their markets and the analytics that fit within it, so they can make that action usable or make that data usable. And then, PS is always make it super sweet and usable. So what should it do? Again, sort of thinking back to that map, we're going to serve multiple consumers of this. So our customers across the country, different sizes, different service lines are going to be consuming this product. And also we have our internal end users who are consultants or client services folks that are working with multiple customers or on behalf of customers in the product as well that need to wear many hats. We want to do packaged analytics, as a product, but we also want to allow flexibility for ad hoc and sort of workbench analytics as people want to create their own content. And really the theme here is it should be all served through a single unified application framework. And just a quick, why did we pick Tableau? There were some attractive benefits to us of speed to market, leveraging an existing platform and being able to hit the ground running with it. The robustness of the features within Tableau, it's constantly getting updates and new things that we can play with. The customizability of the APIs, obviously having it be extensible and being able to access this information and APIs as distinct components that we can kind of decompose and use at our own will. The market present is nice, both from customers being familiar with it and as we develop on the platform, having people who understand Tableau and how to use it. It really gives us all that time back to focus on what we do well, which is the healthcare space and the advanced analytics. So a quick overview, and we'll actually take a look at the application here in just a second, but we're embedding dashboards. Obviously, we're using the JavaScript and REST APIs. We have both live connection and extracts to our data. We have large data sources with billions of rows. We have responsive configurations that allow for real-time input and rendering. And again, we sort of have that nationwide scope that we have to think about when we do this. A quick architecture diagram and how we allow Tableau and the application to sort of communicate tightly is the fact that they both read from the same database, And in order to be really performant, we chose an in-memory database called Exasol to serve those visualizations that are the live connections. And so our app server is sort of writing its configurations and pushing it down into Exasol. Tableau server is reading from there as well, so all of the information is available to it, and then we're exposing the application out as a SaaS solution. So why embed? You know, if you work with product managers or stakeholders or anybody, inevitably you come across this question as, can't we just, put this button over here? Can't we just retain the filter that I selected on the last dashboard? So you're always getting these requests, and in the out-of-the-box experience, you may have to say no, but when you're leveraging in the embedded space, web application blended with Tableau, more and more the answer becomes, yes, we can do that. So let's take a quick look at the application itself in here. So this is our web app, and so the banner is sort of the unifying theme, and there's different products that live along here. And then if you don't even really know what Tableau is a customer, you just know you're sort of looking at a web page, and in the middle you have some analytics here, and then those of us familiar with Tableau understand that the actual visualizations here behind the component are Tableau itself. And we do different things like search and discovery features, which maybe in the Tableau server native experience are sort of jumping around and going to different places, but in the application itself, we're sort of offering different options that we think would be nice to supplement along with that. And then for those real-time configurations, we expose our project configuration. So if you think about if you're a strategy officer in a hospital and you're figuring out where your configuration means to you, and maybe you want to set up multiple of them, it really boils down to a couple things. How do you define your service lines, which are, do you do radiology and do you do surgery? And then also, what does the service area consist of? So what is the geographic bounds of where your patients are coming from and where you're providing services into to understand how you rank up against your competitors. And then we're also doing things like providing consistent experience with statically defined colors, things like that as well, so that as you're navigating across these dashboards, you're retaining as much information as possible through that navigation to help you understand where you are. So we're looking at some Medicare data now, so I'm just going to drill into a dashboard for an example. Jump into just look at service lines. I have my service line distributions, and up across the top here, we sort of have our parameters, which are driving our large actions of, what is my service area that's cutting across this data? What is my service lines? What are the time periods I'm looking at? Underneath, we sort of have all these different filters that can allow you to further refine or cut that data. So I'm going to go ahead and pick pediatric focus. Maybe I'm looking at ages up until 18. I'm going to apply that against my dashboard. It's going to filter down to a subset of that. And as I navigate, let's say I want to go somewhere else within the data set and say, maybe I just don't want to see it by service line. Maybe I want to see the trending overall. I can click into a different dashboard here, and it's going to remember or know what my selections were as I make that. So as I'm driving along, making these project configurations, making selections within it, it's retaining that context for me so that I have that consistent experience across. So that is the quick demo. So I'm going to jump back into the slides here. So why did we choose to build the application that way? Really, we wanted that seamless integration. If you noticed, I didn't have a login screen or anything that prompted me to re-authenticate. I'm already within a web application, and I don't know the difference if I don't know the difference between the web application and Tableau. That experience is bigger than the box. So again, we can sort of preserve context. We can have those dynamic interactions, and those can flow with the user and carry across that experience so that they're not, having jumping out and jumping back in and sort of this disruptive thing. and also that leads to a much more consistent experience for the user. So authentication model is a big piece of this, and as noted in the previous presentation, you want it to be seamless, and we actually went to trusted ticket authentication as well. But our users, can have many different hats and many different roles, so they may be representing different clients across different data sources, and we want to be able to give them the ability to navigate through there without disrupting that. And our user base is not primarily a Tableau maintained thing. We have a authentication system, legacy authentication system that already does all of that user permissioning and identity management. So really duplicating that is a detriment to us to then having to try to manage that in two different places. So there is a lot of different authentication models, or there are a lot of different authentication models supported within there. We looked at a few, there were some limitations against what we had, and ultimately we landed on the trusted authentication as the one that we went with. So how does that work? The trusted auth is that ticket concept where basically the way that I've heard it described that I like the concept of is that that's your ticket for the amusement park, where you get in the gate, you get to ride the rides, and if you leave the park, you need to get another ticket again, or if you cross a threshold to go to a different park, you're getting a new ticket. So that ticket allows you to access anything within the data source, view your visualizations, maintain that session, and it allows it to pass the control back up to the application for handling that, and not have the burden be on Tableau to be doing all of the user management. So in thinking about the context preservation, this really takes it from single dashboards that people are navigating into, navigating out of, and really making a cohesive platform. So they're answering questions in a fluid way where they're jumping from place to place, and they're carrying that context with them. They're making paths that make sense to them without having us disrupt the experience. And again, just noting that sometimes that's hard to do with Tableau. You're asking people to either reselect filters, or you're trying to figure out how to connect workbooks together in a way where it carries across. So again, pushing that back up and letting the app take control of that stuff and remember it allows it to excel at creating that consistent experience there. And then also we can do things like in that inversion of control model, we can retain information outside of Tableau as well. So if we want to generate slides or something, we can have a attribution and notes where we're taking all the things that users are making selections, compiling in them, and then appending them to outputs so that people understand what was being viewed and what filter selections were made at that time. So one example of sort of real-time dynamic interactions for row levels and why we chose to went the live data route is that we have service lines, again, which are sort of considered like the business lines within a hospital. And every hospital or organization may consider these slightly different or have slightly different names or not agree with just a default set, or they may group these items into their own groupings. So allowing them to come into the application, override that, and then see it real time in the application allows them to have the system mimic what they're used to and how they're used to seeing their business lines. We can give them a starting point and make suggestions, but they can also take that, tweak those, and then also share them out with other people as well. So that was a sort of the big struggle in the beginning of it, was trying to figure out how to make that piece of it work, how to have fast, responsive, real-time, manipulated data that can render those dashboards in just a few seconds. Product management was very helpful. Justin and I struggled with that a little bit, but eventually came around to the point where we had a pretty robust solution for that. So one of the other important things in the application setup is that we have this meta layer, which is basically a list of JSON documents that are settings between the application and Tableau that allow the substrate that really connect the two together. And they store all kinds of things like what is the URL to the dashboard, what filters should show up, what parameters should show up. And it allows all different layers of the business to participate in populating, configuring, adding to this context so that, it doesn't just have to be a developer adding a new report key or adding a filter into it. Product management can do that. The Tableau developers can do it. The application developers can do it. Even, potentially client services folks can do that. So we can extend it out and make that accessible to all those folks. A couple of things that we did that were custom. So we actually did the PowerPoint export before PowerPoint export came. I think it was actually maybe 2 weeks before the keynote for the Tableau conference where they announced PowerPoint was coming. But it was actually good because we did some custom work for it. We were putting in templates both for if we generate PowerPoints, it comes with our standard logos and branding and all that kind of stuff. Plus, clients can also upload their PowerPoint templates. So they're generating content in the flow, or maybe they're sharing it back to their board meetings, or maybe they're sharing it with other folks internally, and it already comes sort of pre-generated with all that stuff. And again, as I noted before, it'll also put it to the PowerPoint, sort of that attribution of what data source were you looking at, what filters and parameters were applied, and really help people understand the context of the visualization that they're looking at. So I'm going to pass it over to Justin now to talk a little bit about our React integration.
Great, thanks, Ross. And I'll talk through this slide here, but if you want to toss me the ball as well, I'll share a little bit of a demo to go along with it. Great, thank you. Sharing my screen. Cool. Hopefully folks can see my screen. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. So the last point that I wanted to jump in here and bore you all for a moment or two was on our React integration. We actually did a fair bit of work on this front. One of our original theses for adopting Tableau initially for this project was speed to market. So making sure that our existing team of application engineers could continue using the tools and frameworks that they were used to using was very important to us. So we took kind of the existing JavaScript APIs, which were great, and it was kind of very fully featured, and created wrappers and really brought those in to kind of make a first-class experience within the framework that we had chosen for our folks to work with. I'm going to show you a little bit of that, what that looks like with the demo here in a second. And our hope and our plan for the short-term future is to open up this code for other folks to really contribute and use as well. So I'm going to pop open my browser, but for folks who want to follow along at home or play around with this later, you can head on over to this link. Oops, excuse me. Head over to this link, bit.ly/react-tableau. So close this. Browser page open. And this is really a stripped down example, bare bones. There's maybe 150 lines of JavaScript, and 80% of them are to do routing as opposed to the actual dashboard embedding that we're going to be showing off. So we can see on the right-hand pane of the screen, very bare bones landing page. I've got 3 tabs across the top, the home page, which is where I'm at now, a Viz 1 and a Viz 2 page, and then a filter that is just a basic drop down that lives in the HTML on the page itself. So what I can do is head on over to this Viz 1 page, and it's going to load up an embedded dashboard. I hope I may have timed out on the browser while I had it sitting in the background here. So I'm going to do this quick reload. And there we are. Cool. So like I said, I'm not a very advanced Tableau developer. My reload's kicking in. I was overzealous with hitting the refresh. Just another second to come back. Back over to the Viz 1 page. Loads up the dashboard. Like I said, I'm not a very advanced Tableau developer. Got a basic stack bar chart here with some blue stuff and some white stuff. It's all dummy data. I've got a second viz. That's me playing around with packed bubbles again, the blue stuff and the white stuff. And what I can do now is swap my filter. And again, this is outside of the Tableau visualization. This is living on the page itself. And say, don't show me the blue things and the white things, just show me the blue things. That selection will get passed down to the underlying embedded visualization, filter out all those white data points and just show me the blue ones. Of course, what's interesting is now I'm going to switch back toward that first viz. And when it loads up, sure enough, as expected, right, I'm going to see just the blue data and none of the white data in that stack bar. And this is actually simulating a real page refresh or a real page navigation, as you'd see in any of your kind of single page application frameworks today. It's not like we're keeping both vizes on the page at once or they're connected in any way. We are actually just maintaining that filter context ourselves and funneling it down to the embedded visualization, and that's how we're able to pull it up and apply it whenever we load a new dashboard. And we've provided this kind of minimal example to kind of give folks a place to start playing around with, and also to kind of show how you can get up and running and really make a lot of hay with very little effort. In order to put a new dashboard on the page, I've encapsulated all that logic into a single component, which is how we refer to them in the React world, called dashboard. And all I really have to do is give it that embedding URL, and we're off and away. Everything else, the logic for that is all encapsulated in the code that we've set up here. So you can see if I pull it up here, the definition for that component, it expects a URL, and then it's going to basically reach out, grab that filter context, and then decide whether it needs to create a new dashboard or update an existing one. So if I make the filter change while the dashboard is on the page, it'll update it. But if I don't, then if I don't already have that viz on the page, it'll go ahead and create a new one. So hopefully that was not too confusing, but if folks have follow-up questions, I'll be happy to speak to any of those. And really, like I said, this is out there for anybody to play with. So encourage folks to do so, and we'll be also making noise when we get the larger, more robust library out there in the wild. With that, I'll pass it back over to you, Ross.
You just want to pull up the...
Oops, sorry.
No, it's all right. I was going to say, you can pull up that last slide. I think sharing went into the ether. It's all right. So the last slide was just, oh yeah, just the retrospective about, sort of as we went through, built the full application, and what did that mean to us? So, thinking back on it, sort of the first step is sort of have a plan. It can be a high-level plan, but think about things like, what data sources do you want to bring in? Do you want live connections or extracts? What authentication model is going to fit? Some of them may be ruled out by what your systems are supporting, and what you want your overall application to do from sort of the MVP perspective. Will help guide you towards some of those big decisions, and then certainly adapting as you go. There was a lot of times we pivoted on something or decided we want to do something a different way, and that was perfectly fine. I think we improved, as we went through that path. And then really, when you have the full stack, you're allowed to make the best portion of the application handle what it should. So if it's retaining filters and that belongs in the application, or if it's parameter actions within the dashboards themselves that make more sense, you really have this long runway of places that you can pull from to make decisions to allow you to provide the best experience to your user. So that was the entirety of our presentation. We also did speech at TC, and the whole second half of the presentation was really about making Tableau Desktop behave like an agile development tool. So if you're interested, you can search this presentation name on the TC sessions and find that as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, we are going to include the TC session as well in the follow-up emails. We have also some questions about, is the session recorded? How can I get access to it? We are going to publish this recording on YouTube after today or tomorrow. So here is the time, if you have any questions, it's your time to ask the question to the different presenters, to Bill, to Justin, or Ross. We already have a question for you, Bill. Which API did you use for the homepage link manager?
So that really is just an extension of putting a single viz. Oh wait, the homepage link manager is that uses a REST API call that is actually though called in an AJAX JavaScript call, and that's why when I loaded the page, you could see the spitter sitting there. That was waiting for that asynchronous JavaScript call to return, and it was waiting for that REST API library call to come back. And what it does is we built a routine that basically indexes all of the content on the Tableau server and returns it as an XML object.
Perfect, thank you. Someone asked, what were the main factors that lead you to choose Tableau for embedded analytics rather than a JavaScript library? So we can start maybe with Bill, and then we can go to Ross and Justin.
For us, it was the idea that we needed to provide an environment where our clients can build their own dashboards and embed them into the student information system, just like all of the content we give them. And we could not expect them to do that with something like a Kendo library or something like that. So Tableau absolutely made sense, and then with all the APIs, it made it easy to put it in. But it's the extensibility, so our clients can build their own dashboards and put them in.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'd say from our perspective too, it was definitely allowing people to participate in the process as well. So not only we have multiple people who can build analytics, but are not necessarily writing code. So whether it's folks on the Chartist side who are participating in that process, whether it's our client services folks, whether it's us, we're allowing a platform to be stood up that allows participation in various parts of the spectrum, rather than isolating it. And then, probably a few points from the topic slide about, sort of speed to market and some of those different value adds. But I'll let Justin weigh in on this as well too.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with everything that's been said so far. So coming from the JavaScript world, I've worked personally extensively with high charts and D3 and some of the other charting libraries and tools out there. And it really got down to, what sorts of charts are we going to be building that are going to be kind of the off-the-shelf offerings, the standard ones? Do we think we can do those as well or better as than something like Tableau and as quickly? And then, who can we empower to contribute on the analytics side of the equation, right? So like Ross mentioned, we have consultants who are also building dashboards for our clients that may have no engineering background at all. So we really got to leverage a lot of that breadth of experience and provide not only kind of a SaaS offering, but also a publishing platform for some of those folks.
Perfect, thanks for your answer. Another question for Bill. You mentioned that the system is passing queries. How is the connection set up within the Tableau workbooks?
So it depends upon the amount of data, and this is one of the things that we train our clients when they build their own workbook. The data warehouse that we're hitting, the Infinite Campus data warehouse, is a high-performance Microsoft SQL Server database, but sometimes you're just pulling too much data, so it could be pulling live data. They could be creating an extract and pulling it off of an extract stored on the Tableau server. And when they use our web data connector, obviously it's always using an extract.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, I don't think we have any questions for today. So thank you again for joining, and thank you for the awesome presenter. You did an awesome job. We learned a lot about embedded analytics, and have a happy holidays and see you next year then. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hey, Ross and Justin, that's a pretty nice looking application you guys have.
Thank you.
Thanks, you as well. Take care, folks.